A couple of quick questions.
All right.
So Roel, what kind of artist do you consider yourself?
I consider myself an artist.
Okay, so this is Roel. He's an amazing artist. He does everything from concept art to portraits to landscapes, traditional style, digital, runs the whole gamut as far as visual arts goes. He's worked in film and dabbled in music. One of my favorite artists. Just amazing to watch, to be around. I hope you guys enjoyed this interview. It was a lot of fun for me, and it was a good time.
Hello, I'm Chris Blaikie. Today I'm interviewing Roel Jovellanos. We're down in San Diego, down at his studio. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, man.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
I'm just going to jump into this really quick, if you don't mind.
Okay, so you have questions there.
I do have a couple of questions for you.
All right.
So what kind of artist do you consider yourself?
I do consider myself an artist. That's good, right?
That's
in terms
important.
of specificity, more of a general artist. I do oil paintings, acrylic paintings, even film. I dabble in film.
Right.
Some music, but that's more of a hobby, I
Right.
would say.
So would you consider yourself more of a visual artist then?
Definitely visual
Right.
artist. I like to explore different mediums or media, depending on my subject. When I want to explore, like
Sure.
if it's more of the human condition, I think film. You can't match film in terms of exploring human interaction and dynamics.
Right.
You could get a beautiful image of human on canvas, but you can only go so far as that plane.
Right. And then having the digital media kind of allows you to kind of explore a lot, like super fast, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's opened up for me endless possibilities and where I could take my art, which is also, I think for a lot of people, including me, it could be like a negative where you have so many things you want to delve into
Right.
that it's hard to commit, or it's hard to get good at one specific thing. Like say like going to film, like I like doing film, but that takes a lot of work, but I also like to paint. So if I have the subject matter in mind, do I want to paint it, or do I want to film it, or do I want to make a video game? Right? There's a video game, and there's 3D now. There's a VR and stuff.
Yeah, and there's so many things. That kind of almost brings me to like a couple of questions down, which I'll get to. When did you consider yourself a professional artist, and what was your first job?
I consider my professional artist, I guess, after I got my first job. But I'm not saying to be a pro, you have to have a job. But I would say it's more finding a zone where you consistently do your art
Right.
over a long period of time and get paid for it, hopefully.
Right.
I mean, I wouldn't consider Van Gogh a non-professional artist, even though he probably only sold one painting in his life. I don't know how many, he didn't sell many paintings in his life, right?
Right.
But as a fine artist, he cranked out a lot of paintings. So I wouldn't say money is the main factor in considering yourself a pro like it is in sports, right?
Right. Yeah.
But it's just committing to something.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love the idea of just committing to something. I think
Yeah.
that's an important thing in everybody's life. I think that's one of the things that I go by as well.
There's a second part of that question.
Oh, sure, yeah.
What was it again?
When did you dedicate yourself to that? I mean, what was the project that was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna be a professional artist?
So
now?
I got a job working for a game company, Midway Games,
Right on.
in the 90s, and that I got into the video game industry, and at the time and even now is just a huge field where artists can make a living at.
Right. Well, what kind of games did you work on and stuff like that?
Like sports games, different game RPGs,
Oh.
fantasy games. You know. So,
Right.
yeah.
Vision. Yeah. Oh, I get you. How long have you been like working in the gaming industry and doing paintings and stuff?
So in games, I've been probably close to 20 years. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
It's been that long.
Yeah, I started around 98 maybe, and just recently retired, semi-retired from it. I just needed a break. Yeah, I know, right?
No, I get
do I
that.
look like I'm not like the retiring age, but
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, not at all. For me, I would like to ask,
Okay.
can you talk about the creative process, like when you starting a project, or even how you start a piece? Are you doing stuff more organically, or does it does it differ?
The creative process. I mean, there's a lot. I'm going to talk generalities here. I'm assuming we artists share a lot in common, but
Right.
so when I say we, or artists 10, I would think for artists would be the hardest part in starting a creative process is finding what you want to say.
Right.
Asking questions you want to answer as an artist.
Yeah.
Like, do I want to explore love? Do I want to explore depression? Do I want to explore poverty?
Ooh.
In art, right?
Right,
Or do I want
right.
to explore abstraction? Do I want to deconstruct traditionalism? Right. Whatever it is. That's I have these questions, and then the answer is, for me, is that question worth pursuing? Because art is a heavy investment.
It
in
totally is. Time
and resources.
Time, for sure.
And if I find if it's a good enough investment that where I want to explore, then I come up with in what media do I want to explore that in? Painting, whatever.
right.
And then
There's so many different avenues to go down.
Yeah,
Exactly.
And then that's the hard part starts, where you actually have to
think well, and then that kind of brings me to the next question. Then do you have a more organic approach towards a painting, being like you kind of free flow through the thing, and it kind of comes from maybe a subconscious level, or are you doing a lot of different types of sketches?
Right. Coming from more of a design background and commercial background, I found that it has to be thought out. I like to keep it organic, but there's a lot of planning involved.
Right.
Like every time I try to just let it flow, it turns out a disaster. It's romantic, right? I mean, I know you could do that. I've seen you do that. I can't do that, right?
Yeah.
Where you just and I have a buddy who does it. She could just grab a paint and just whoosh. It's awesome, right?
Yeah.
I can't do that. When I try to do that, it's just not me, and it never works out. So I usually have to plan it out and get.
I have seen some of the stuff that you've done. It might have been back at Distinction.
Okay.
It was a little worm you drew. It might have been a canvas a little bit smaller than this.
Okay.
And it looked like you did it really organically. 'Cause
Yeah.
I might have walked in on you a couple of times, and it really inspired me a lot.
Okay.
It really did, because of your process and stuff like that. And I was like, wow, does he just flow out like that?
Yeah.
It was amazing. I was like, that looked cool to me though.
Yeah. Like I guess that was kind of more of a sketch.
Sure.
Concept sketch. Looked great, trying to figure out this creature.
Right.
I think I remember the piece you're talking about. So I guess I kind of viewed that as part of the process of developing this creature.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, and
sure.
design. But I remember not knowing where to take it after I did that initial thing.
Sure.
Yeah, and that painting doesn't exist anymore.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. I was talking to a buddy of mine up in Portland this past month, and I walked into his garage, and he had a painting that he started maybe 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And he has a very organic approach too, but it never evolved beyond a certain point,
Okay.
And I was like, I started talking to him about this question. And I was like, well, when you're doing it organically, where does it come from?
Right.
Is it a subconscious place? And if it is a subconscious place, it's like, well, does that have to deal with, who you are, what type of mood you're in, and things like that, like the life you're living.
Right.
That's why I feel like I enjoy doing organic stuff. But that's not it. That's not
Well, I mean, I understand. When I dabble in writing, that's where it comes organic, where I really pull in life.
Right.
When I write, like screenwriting, from when little I dabbled into it. And in terms of painting, yeah, I mean, definitely there's an organic aspect to it.
Sure.
But I find a certain part of it, the beginning is kind of, or at a certain point, I have to actually just think of it analytically, not so rigid, but kind of have to step away from it and like how do I take this and make it a good painting, right?
Right. And add your technical aspects to it.
Yeah.
Right. Kind of, I feel that. I definitely understand that. I feel the same way about my stuff. I can play with the canvas as much, like freely, but then there's some point where you have to have the technical skills and the application know-how, basically.
Right. Or even like step out and think composition. Okay, I threw this down really quick and think back, hey, I like the flow of it, but then I look back and how to improve this composition here.
Right.
And I might paint over it and change it up a little bit or start over again.
Sure.
But I got the initial idea out in the beginning. That came organically. But,
right. So you're a digital artist. Do you consider yourself, I mean, you work in a digital format, basically, right? And you work in 3D, you work in Photoshop, obviously. How has that affected your traditional art?
Okay.
Right.
One of the things
does it?
It has a lot of. It helped me improve art in general in terms of being able to not worry about mixing paint, not worry about paint thinner, not worrying about the physical aspects,
right?
The messiness, the toxicity of real media or real paint, analog media.
Sure.
You can paint quicker, so you can do more paintings or more art, and you get better. The more you do, the better you get.
Right.
But it's hurt me in terms of color, because the way you mix color is not necessarily the way you do it in real life. So I found my use of color has regressed and stuff. So that's what actually I'm trying to improve on right now, going back to oil paints and learning how to mix color again.
Always learning.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
Don't stop doing that, because I think that's great. Do you think digital art is going to help or hurt future artists?
It's only going to help. It's only going to help because you don't have to worry about the barrier of the physical world, and it becomes all about ideas and exploring new approaches. Like art without digital media, without technology, art could have been dead. Artists could have reached everything they could have explored after modernism, after postmodernism. What else after conceptual art? What else is there to explore in art? But now with digital media, there's a lot more things to dabble in.
Right.
That's probably beyond whether it's VR or whether it's whatever. That might be beyond me now, but for the future generation, they have new stuff to fuck with and new stuff to take to the next level and explore, right? Right,
that's almost beyond us, huh?
Yeah, it's awesome because in terms of visual art, like some art like music has almost reached that wall of where else can we take it?
Right.
Because sound is sound.
Sure.
There's digital sound, there's digital music, but with visual art, there's still, I think, areas where you could take it to other realms.
Right.
It hasn't reached that wall yet, thanks to digital.
Right. What or who inspires your style?
A lot of things.
Artists?
A lot of things. I'm still trying. In a way, I'm still trying to find it. I just got out of the commercial world, and it's time for. I'm bearing down and trying to focus on my own vision, my own style, my own approach.
Right.
I have a lot of influence in film, like artists like Aronofsky is very influential. In art, Andrew Wyeth is very influential. There's a lot of great masters that are. There's a lot of modern digital artists that are. Yeah, but I find most of my inspiration comes from like more traditional artists.
Cool.
Yeah, so American artists. So,
yeah. No, I love your paintings. I think your paintings are doing great.
Thanks.
Do you have any visual tools that you use for your creative process, for your compositions or your layouts or anything like that? Are you using what is it, the golden ratio or anything like that?
Right.
Or things like that? Or like, are you putting a grid up? Or
Right. I don't do that. That comes somewhat organically, even though I said composition. Well, it's almost like I guess it's not organic. It's more of like what you call it? A little bit of intuition.
Sure.
You could overthink composition,
Sure.
you know?
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
You could try to conform something to the golden ratio, golden rule.
That drives me crazy.
And then you get a formulaic pain, right? Because it's been exhausted, I mean, over centuries.
Yeah.
Actually, cinematography, compositionally is influential.
Sure.
You know, the way foreground
Love
elements,
that.
why I like the wide aspect ratio.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. Mostly it's just to correct, mostly how I approach composition is correct what's wrong, what doesn't look right.
Sure.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, for me, I feel like it's like a puzzle. It's like putting together a puzzle, or it's like drawing it out. And it's always something to figure out for me. You know, I've always, and that's what the appeal for me.
That's to me the appeal also is that's appeal. That's what's appeal. That's one of the things that appeals to me about film is the puzzle work of lighting and placement of characters, and also that the movement of an actor or the pan or tilt or dolly of a camera changes composition constantly. Right. You could have a scene that's beautifully composed and lit, but frame by frame, you might not have the perfect composition, but as a whole, you would get this masterpiece of composition.
Ooh,
right?
Yeah.
So that's what I like about films more an experience of composition.
So I know that you recently did your first short feature film. What are we calling that?
It's a medium, long length short.
Yeah, I don't know what to call it exactly. I loved it, by the way. I thought it was terrific. Just so you know, I thought to be. Because I know you also wrote that with Thomas Sinchek.
Yeah. It's an idea we came up with a long time ago. I mean, the story has changed a lot since then, but the spirit of I'm hoping the spirit of what we were thinking of carried over.
Right.
You know, into it.
Now, did you talk to him about that at all?
Some text. Like,
Okay.
It was cool.
Just wondering. Yeah. So when you're working, do you work on more than one project at a time, or are you kind of just focused on one piece? Or?
Yeah, when I'm in the piece, I'm focused on that. But like when I'm trying to find out what I want to commit to, I'm usually focused on different things. Like right now, I'm on the second draft of a feature-length screenplay, but also I'm weighing in on a series of paintings I want to do.
Very cool.
And another short I'm trying to kind of developing in my head. But like once I figure out what I want to commit to, then it's going to be just that.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So just more basic on the way you work. When's the best time for you to be working? Is it like in the morning or late at night type of a guy?
Usually it's late at night. When I had the 9 to 5, it was late at night. Now it's like, probably, I don't know. It's like more like like at a coffee shop or like here at home. I don't know. I haven't worked much lately. I mean, but it's usually at night.
Just at night. It's just
when I don't have any distractions. When when I'm sober, when I have time to myself, and usually, and I have
Do you think being downtown as opposed to being out in the country is affecting your work at all?
I mean, I don't know. I would love to see how it is out in the country.
Yeah,
you know,
because that's where I'm from.
Yeah, I don't know. How is that like? Do you feel more creative in the country versus?
I think it's based on references.
Okay.
You know, like around here, you have a lot of square references, very rigid corners and stuff. Or, you know, just to look at.
Okay.
When I look out your window, it's like, I got these edges and stuff.
Okay.
When I'm out in the country and I need to draw a tree or something like that, everything's very the references, I could just turn my back and be like,
Okay.
well, I look out my window and I got this big old pine tree or something like that.
Okay.
It's a little bit
So what influences you? It affects what you're surrounded by.
Right.
You can't help it.
right.
Yeah.
Right. So maybe it is kind of a weird thing. Huh?
Yeah.
I never really thought of that.
Yeah. I used to do a lot of landscapes. Now I'm here in city. I don't feel like doing landscapes anymore.
Right.
Now it's all about like people and that I'm thinking about. And
Right,
stuff.
because right out the window
Yeah.
people watching right
And you're
out here is
forced to-
amazing.
yeah. And you can't live in downtown without being forced to interact with people. I mean, by nature a loner, but
Right.
being out here, it's impossible to be alone.
Yeah.
And you're forced to think about other people and
Right.
how you interact with other people and how other people interact with each other and the stories you have and the stories other people have. It's unavoidable, and that's going to influence
That's
you.
very cool.
Yeah.
It's very weird about how where we are and how it influences us. I always thought, for me, I was always like, no matter where I'm at, I'm always going to be able to do this type of art and blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah. And that's when I was a lot younger and I was, doing more abstract art. But yeah, now that I feel like I'm getting older, it does kind of make a difference of where you're at,
And maybe it's also age, where
Yeah.
like something that meant so much to you when you were younger doesn't mean as much, or still means something, but that's not what you want to explore anymore. or
Right.
I don't know. Should we paint or something? What do you think?
Yeah.
No, you got more questions?
I got one more question.
Oh, hey,
for you.
okay.
I got
Sorry,
one more-
all right. Your interview, man. All right.
Hey, how do you feel about collaborating with other artists?
Speaking
and
of
work-
which,
yeah. You know?
I love collaborating with other
Cool.
artists. There's nothing.
Very
There's
cool.
nothing else. There's nothing else like that.
Yeah.
And
I love it myself.
Yeah.
I think it's great.
and there's something that happens that's magic, and it's experience
Yeah.
also.
Cool. So let's do it. Let's do a little bit. Maybe we'll film some of it, and
Yeah. Okay.
we'll show that. I think that'd be cool. So where'd you go to school at?
I went to Art Center, College of Design in Pasadena.
No.
Majored in illustration. Wanted to be an illustrator. I wanted to do book covers, fantasy book covers. At least that's what I initially wanted to do. But illustration kind of died.
Right.
The whole industry is dead pretty much right now. So I had to figure something else out,
Yeah.
And at the time, it was all about feature animation, like Disney or DreamWorks.
Right.
DreamWorks just formed, and they started their own animation studio. I think Prince of Egypt. Prince of Egypt was their first animated feature film, and a lot of my classmates got gigs on there,
Really?
working on it.
Wow.
And some didn't even
Cool,
finish
that'd have
school.
We just started. Was Disney just pulling from?
Disney, DreamWorks, they were just pulling from Art Center, and if you knew traditional art and digital art, they would
Yeah.
just grab you because the industry was so new.
So you just had to be able to communicate with these people, with other artists and stuff.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So it kind of pays off to go to school for some things.
It definitely does pay off to go to school.
Yeah.
sometimes it does. I mean, these days you don't really have to, for art. You can learn so much online or
Right.
taking some local courses. Maybe even finding someone to mentor under. Because there's so many good artists now. Back then in the '90s and even early 2000s, art was a lost art form. I mean, traditional art, learning how to draw and paint, was lost
Right.
to modernism, postmodernism. Just the traditional skills of basic drawing and painting. They weren't taught
Right.
anymore, or they weren't taught as much as they weren't as important to a lot of art curriculums all over the country as they were in the past.
Right.
Like in the '50s or during the golden age of illustration or whatever,
Sure.
or in the fine art world pre
Disney.
I guess pre. I see. I'm not the best art historian, but I would say post Duchamp and post Picasso art, and because of Warhol and abstract expressionism.
Right.
Expression is who I love. I mean, in terms of fine art, the old traditional skills weren't valued as much. So back then, it was hard to find institutions to learn how to draw and paint.
Right.
And now there's like schools everywhere. Or not everywhere, but there are schools out there, ateliers out there where you can learn how to draw and paint. And online courses and online tutorials. You can learn pretty much everything now.
Right.
It's almost like how the Romans rediscovered Greek art. It's like how freaking postmodernist culture has rediscovered pre-modern art.
Right. Right. What do you think art's going to be turning towards, or like, what do you see art becoming in the future?
So I'm always talking about fine art and separate from commercial art. Commercial art, a lot of it is going to go to new technologies,
Right.
virtual or 3D
Switch sides?
or possibilities are endless. It all depends on the viewing format. Is it going to be film? Is it going to be online? Is it going to be some sort of virtual situation at living room? Who knows
Right.
where it's going to be?
Wow. Maybe something like this, where people are just hanging out, painting, smoking weed. And
Yeah, in a virtual environment, you have goggles on, and you're like with some guy in China or in Berlin, smoking virtual weed. Yeah. In terms of fine art, I know it's for the first time in a long time, fine art is trailing commercial art in terms of means of expression.
Right.
Maybe finally fine art will start integrating digital into a wider, healthier extent. Start integrating 3D. Start integrating. It depends on the viewing format, whether it's in the gallery space or in museum space, or can fine art exist in a home space? It does exist in home space on the wall. I'm just brainstorming here. It's random. It's local. I mean, fine art as a patron you have on your wall, but in a viewing, can you have a virtual gallery opening at home and experience fine art in a collective manner? I don't know. Who knows? I don't know what that is. I mean, my personal philosophy is like about integration of various thoughts and disciplines and media and approaches. So like, all of that, pull from it, integrate it and stuff. I think that's what the future is about, the integration of different expressive modes, film integrating with painting, fine art integrating with commercial, postmodern, modern art integrating well with traditional art, as long as they know what the worth of each movement was about.
Right.
maybe integration through separation, you know? Who knows?
You start printing out stuff and fucking pasting it to canvases and then painting around it.
Yeah.
No, that's already been done.
Yeah.
That looks so bad. Just
But-
so you guys know, that's really bad.
But the whole thought of what's been done before should never be done again,
That's crazy.
I think that's old school thinking. I think that's outdated.
Right.
Good art can be done before, can already have been done. You know?
Yeah.
That's just limiting. That's just refusing to appreciate in a way what has come past, you know?
Yeah.
If you can't do what's been done before, then why freaking, what was the value of doing it in the first place? Are you saying that wasn't worth doing if it's not worth doing again? You know?
Yeah. So what artists do you think that are nowadays that you know are cutting edge? Where you would consider cutting edge?
I don't follow a lot of artists.
Right.
Yeah. In terms of
Styles.
in terms of like who's cutting edge or not,
Right.
I follow more artists in terms of who speaks to me, what I really kind of relate to,
Ah.
or is that just kind of get something out of me, get emotion out of me, get that triggers feels in me.
Right. Yeah. For sure.
Yeah, or
For
that I
sure.
can relate to. Yeah.
For sure.
So I mean, I'm a big fan of Andrew Wyeth. Something about his paintings and approach. I'm a big fan of like the abstract expressionists. I mean, I love that work, the energy,
Right.
the movement.
What about the street art? You see a bunch of guys doing street art now.
Yeah, I like street art too because it's of the times.
Right.
It's relevant to their environment. They're painting about their environment, in their environment, and who they are is deeply integrated into their art. I might not have a piece of street art on my wall.
Right.
I mean, I can, but doesn't mean
You don't appreciate.
I don't appreciate. I mean, I would definitely have a piece of street art on my wall, but you don't have to be of that world to not recognize the authenticity
Sure.
of street art.
Sure.
Because how can you get more authentic than street art? Than you know?
It seems like it's always been done. There's always
Yeah.
been graffiti up on the walls somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Like that people walk by daily and see and they're affected by it. You know, like
Yeah.
emotionally, like, oh, this guy's like, here's a painting of this guy that's constantly screaming in my face, and it's like, fuck this thing.
Yeah.
You know, it affects you. It affects people.
Yeah.
Do you think artists have a certain responsibility as far as emotional inspiration then? Is there such a thing?
Ask the question again? What was the question?
Is there like do artists have a certain like responsibility for evoking emotions or something, or is that does that even matter?
It depends on the artist. What does the artist want to? What's his goal? Is his goal to invoke emotions? I think that's important. I think to me I think that's valuable because that's a way good art I think communicates with other people. And one of the best ways to do that is to evoke an emotion to the viewer. You know.
Yeah.
In the end, it's almost art is almost about communication. And if it can't communicate on some level,
Right.
then is it good art? And a good way to tell if it's communicating on certain levels if it evokes an emotion from somebody.
Like art is a form of communication. Painting is a form of communication.
Yeah,
You know, because you're telling somebody, this is how I feel. You
yeah,
know, it's like, I feel like, it's like cooking. A good cook is usually a good person.
right.
You know, it's like, I feel like if you're a good painter, you're usually a good person. You know what I mean? Deep down inside, you have to have that level of commitment. You have to have your follow through. To be able to complete a painting isn't an easy task. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's because you see a lot of half completed paintings.
Yeah.
How many half completed paintings do you have?
Yeah. Totally. Man. A lot, man. I mean, sure there are narcissistic, selfish painters out there who do great work, but
Oh my god, but they're so fucking annoying. I'm so sorry. I've seen great people great art that's been done by egotistical guys. And for me, even not knowing that person, it feels like it's more shock value.
okay.
It's like, oh jeez. Do I like that? I don't. I personally don't like that.
Right.
I don't.
I would say I would say you could do non-emotional pieces that impact a viewer if it's about
Right.
showing them a new way of seeing things. Like say color field painting or abstract painting. It's about, hey, here's a new way of seeing something. It doesn't necessarily have to be about let me make you feel something. It's about let me make you see something different. So I can see that art like that having a lot of value. I mean, but then that gets old. That could get old when you can
Right.
without having any emotional by itself without any emotional content.
Right. So I like to see like an artist who is suffering or struggling, for that matter, painting. Because usually the portraits come out a little bit sadder. They come out a little bit more of they're expressing a little bit more of their personality. And I think that's what I enjoy reading in a painting. You know what I mean? 'Cause
Right.
that's the communication for me.
Right.
It's like seeing them, just the outlet. Like, oh my gosh, I'm so pissed, I'm having a bad day. It's like, that was a bad day. So
Right.
when the viewer sees that painting, they're having a bad day, they can relate to it. It's like,
Yeah.
because that's
Because people kind of like to enjoy when the story of their lives are being told by somebody else or being, if like you watch a movie and like that's my life, it makes you feel like maybe you are important in this world too. Maybe your feelings are valid,
yeah.
If you see a piece of art that you could relate to and someone was feeling the same way, like you're saying, then maybe that's like, to a viewer that says, if this artist can feel these emotions that I've been feeling, I don't feel so bad about feeling these emotions. Maybe it's, I don't know.
That goes back to the whole like language of art and being able to communicate. It's like when I was going through hard times, those were some of the best paintings that people were relating to.
Yeah.
All the other stuff, people are all like, that's nice, yeah, that's good.
Right.
But then the fucked up times where people are like, that's a fucking good painting. And that is cool because I feel that,
This is authenticity there.
Yeah.
This is realness there.
Right. And it goes back, do you think you have to be struggling to do good art? Come on.
Let me show the interviewer too as I paint. All right.
Does that work? All right.
Yeah. All right.
Sure. Okay.
All right. Let me. All right.
All right.
Continue.
Because do you have to be struggling to do good art?
I don't think so, but I think a lot of good art comes from struggling,
There we go.
right?
Yeah.
From the struggle, because when you're struggling, you're looking. It's about searching a lot of times.
Yeah.
And I think art is about searching. You know.
Yeah.
About searching for an answer to something. Searching for a way to express something. Searching a way to communicate. So, yeah.
He's like, I need to tell this person this. It's like, how do I express to this person, like, I'm not happy with you.
Yeah.
Or I'm not happy with this situation.
Right.
I mean, you can write it, and even that would be good art.
Yeah.
You know?
And a lot of it, yeah. Or how do I talk about grief? Like the short film I did was about grief. How do I talk about it? How do I express grief in art form? How do I address grief as a subject matter?
Right.
You know, in coping with grief and sadness or in trauma. You know.
Yeah.
So you come up. I think you can come up with questions like that, like, you know. And then your art could be about exploring the answers to those questions. You know, like a lot of my landscapes were about the beauty between the cracks of the city, right? Of Southern California. When you glimpse out and you see this beautiful nature out there, you know, that you felt in the moment. You know, it was about that. It was about expressing that. So I had a lot of, you know, more cropped in, wide pieces, you know, rarely showing the foreground, or rarely showing, never showing man-made objects. It's more of like what you see between the man-made objects, right?
Right.
Not using photo references, just painting the landscape how you remember that moment. So, and stuff like that.
Right. Right. No, I just took a trip up to Portland, Oregon last month. A lot of this is all just Portland, Oregon for me.
Okay.
Like, if I started doing more of this is just us out in the camping out in the woods. We did like a 23-mile hike just out in the woods.
Nice.
You know, and just spending the time in there, I brought back. And right now, before, a lot of my landscapes were of Southern California, mostly North County, San Diego.
Okay.
But now a lot of my stuff is just, I feel like it's more Portland.
Okay.
It's all like Tanner Butte, all along the Columbia River type stuff. And it was beautiful. It was beautiful. You know, being with my brothers and a really close friend of ours, it was a good time, in other words. You know?
Nice.
And so just kind of holding on to that moment, I do it with a painting.
Yeah.
You know, just trying to, I guess that's what I was inspired by. I guess the next question would be, do you feel like that the city is influencing you to paint more figuratively or
I think so, right? Now that I live in the city, I feel that's definitely influenced where I want to go. Before it was like, I want to get the California landscape. I want to explore that. I want to find a way to show that in my art.
Yeah.
You know, being stuck in traffic for an hour and a half, you know, and just looking for beauty out the window. Right. You know, a lot of my art, it was like the cracks, like I said, you know, or like
the in-between.
The in-betweens, or like not showing foreground because the foreground is freaking the freeway and traffic right here. You know, if you look at if you could show some of my paintings, like my landscapes, I rarely show, it's almost like the zoomed in tips of the mountain hills. Right.
Right.
And that's what I saw, exploring that, right? and it's definitely not your traditional California impressionistic stuff, which is pretty and nice.
Yeah.
But that's not what I want to do. Those aren't the colors I see. Those aren't the compositions I see. I like eucalyptus trees, but that eucalyptus trees don't hit me. Don't personally remind me of that point in my life. So I don't paint eucalyptus trees in my California landscapes. They're not even American. They're freaking Australian trees. So yeah.
Right. Right. They brought them over here for the railroad.
Ah, is that why?
Yep.
Oh.
They brought them over for the railroad because they grew so fast. And but what they ended up finding, so they planted all the eucalyptus trees around here. And then after the first couple of years when they started using them, they found out that it was an awful wood to use because it cracked and broke right away.
Oh.
But it grows like a foot a month or something stupid, like so fast.
Oh,
so they
shit.
thought that, this would be a great wood to use for railroads.
Oh.
And so
okay.
that's why you have the eucalyptus in Southern California.
And the environments match it as well with
Right.
Australia.
It's just kind of a funny thing.
And apparently the sap and whatever from the eucalyptus trees is like all good for all sorts of like bug repellents and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Oh yeah, yeah. Eucalyptus oil. It's getting to your hippie side.
Okay, yeah. Is it oil? How did they get? You know how they get oil? Is it from the leaves or something, or what?
No, I don't know.
Okay. That's where your knowledge ends.
That's about the extent of my information on
Okay.
eucalyptus.
All right. Pick up some brushes.
Yeah, I'll do that. I'll pick up some brushes for this. You know what I'm gonna do? Since you don't do foreground,
Okay.
I'm gonna fuck around with some foreground. This is good. Because I love my big thing is pulling a person into the painting.
Okay.
I think having that feel of almost like a that's all I'll do. That's all I roll.
Cool with that. Mic drop. You're out of here.
Boom.
Boom.
Here's my mic drop. Boom.
Sure, you're thinking more taller trees in there. back there?
Yeah.
So where are you at now in terms of art?
I enjoy talking about art.
Okay.
I think after being in the gallery for so long,
Distinction?
distinction, talking with people and stuff, I've really found I just love the subject matter of it. I love talking about it. I love being around it.
Okay.
And I love painting, but
You're enjoying. You want to just enjoy it.
I just want to enjoy it. I just want to enjoy creating stuff and get to the point where it's fun. I
Yeah.
love painting. I mean, I just love painting.
Yeah.
I love the challenge of a composition or creating a composition. I love enjoying it.
Okay.
I love playing with the space. I love playing with just everything I know how to do now. You know, and not trying to make money doing it. You know, I think I lost. I lost a lot of joy in it, just trying to please people and trying to figure out what I was going to paint next, and I feel
Hustle of it.
yeah, just the hustle of it all. It's like so silly.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think that everybody's a good artist. Anybody can be a great artist. You know, I think there's such a stigma about having it to be, needing it to be perfect, and you know, how come I can't do this, or how come I can't do that? And it's like, well, it's not that hard, man. We've been taught how to paint our whole lives, and without even knowing it, you know.
Right.
I mean, even something like this. This, to me, will turn into just like a coloring book almost.
Mm-hmm.
For me, like working like this will bring it to like in a coloring book, it's like black and white. It's not that much different to me,
Okay.
you know. So I have yeah.
Okay.
I don't know where I'm at really with
Ah,
my
okay.
art.
I know you do more abstract. I don't know if it's called. You consider that abstract, more surrealist. I don't know what it would be.
Yeah, I would consider it more abstract.
Abstract.
Yeah.
And you do your landscape nature stuff too.
Yeah, and that's why it's like having. I don't know. I just love painting. That's all. I love art. I think I've kind of gone through my process as far as learning goes.
Okay.
You know, I mean, not as far as learning, but trying to figure out how to paint.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like the first 10 years, it's like, well, shit, how do you do that? How do you create depth?
Right.
You know, how do you apply the paint properly? And how do you create shadows? And what am I going to paint? It's like, I don't have a problem creating a painting anymore. You know, it's like I'm not struggling to try and figure out how to do something. It's just more. But that takes me back to just talking about it, being around it. I enjoy the discussion.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I really do, because I think that in the discussion of art, I think you can learn so much. I mean, about people and. I don't know how they are, really.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's just little things, the subtleties of it. Maybe the detail I enjoy now a lot more.
Right.
Like before, I was like, oh man. I was like, how do you get so much detail? But I think I learned a lot doing doing like 3D work
Okay.
and having to do UV maps and like image mapping and stuff like that.
Uh-huh. Because you're forced to work with it.
Yeah.
Detail.
Right. Because it's all about the detail. And that's where I learned how to do a lot of stuff. You know, I mean, that's why I think I asked that question, is because it's like I learned a lot from digital art.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, doing 3D stuff. I took a lot away from it myself.
You definitely learn. There's definitely it's another way of seeing things you could apply.
Yeah.
To,
Yeah.
art. I've like I learned color theory from our teachers and stuff. Learning color from
Right.
hearing various art teachers talk about color, but then working in the digital world, you get a programmer explaining to you the physics behind light and color. I mean, how it actually works.
Right.
And you're thinking, all these artists are just kind of making it sound, I mean, explaining it in a more accessible way, but it's not really that accurate.
Right.
But you get a programmer or a graphics engineer explaining, you know, how light actually hits off, works with an object, and I can't even explain what they explain.
Yeah.
But it's a different way of seeing it. It's more true way of how light and color works that you can bring to art,
Right.
if you can figure that out.
Yeah. No. There is something to it. There's definitely. But I think there's a lot. There's. For me, I feel like there's a lost language in art that I'm trying to discover or maybe share with other people.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, nowadays it's more about the process, and sharing it with people, kind of breaking down the whole idea that you have to paint like Michelangelo to be a great artist.
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
Right.
you know what I mean? It's like, no, Michelangelo was a great artist.
Mm-hmm.
No deny. If you can paint like him, you're probably a good painter.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think that there's a difference in being a good painter and being a good artist.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, I may not be the greatest painter, but I feel like I'm a good artist.
Right.
You know, it's like but there are other guys out there that are great artists and great painters, you know? But at the same time, I feel like the guys who aren't that great of painters, you know, that are struggling, there's a lot of good art that they're doing, you know? And,
Right. I think that's where you have to balance
right.
your skill with what you're trying to say, with your art expression. I mean, you don't have to like. The analogy I like to bring up is, say, the guitarist Slash from Guns N' Roses, and there's this guitarist Steve Vai, right?
Yeah.
Steve Vai, master guitarist, amazing guitarist, technically, expressively great. Slash is nowhere near that level of skill.
Right.
But Slash has enough skill and talent to write amazing music, you know, and riffs. You don't need to be a uber master of your craft to create good art.
Right. Having some technical know-how is important. You know what I mean? And I think that's important to share. I've been doing a lot of like lessons and stuff lately, and I love doing that. I love doing lessons. I think sharing art with other people who don't know how to do art or who are like super intimidated by it.
Right.
Those are my favorite people to work with, you know, because they're always so willing to learn, you know, and it's like, oh, that's so great. But then you get the person who's trying to become an artist and like struggling with it, and then you're trying teaching them, and they give you attitude like, nah, that's not right. That's not how you do it.
Right.
It's like, well, what are you talking about? There's no right way to do it. This is how I do it. And it's a good reference, sure, you know. And there's not, you know, there's obviously more than one way to paint a landscape.
Right.
You know, it's like, there's more than one way to, develop your technique and your style. I guess it's more your style is kind of what I enjoy a lot, is seeing people's style. It's like, I love how you're doing this right now. It's like, oh my gosh, I've seen you do it like 100 times, but it's still, like, that's still amazing to me. I'm still blown away every time I see it.
Yeah, I mean, technically, these clouds aren't really riskly done. These aren't how cloud formations work. I mean, I'm sure a traditional landscape painter will be like, oh, what is that, right?
Right.
But a lot of it is about the motion of the brushstrokes and how just the soothing feel I got from applying these.
Yeah.
And the mental state I was when I apply these. That's what it's about. I don't care if this highlight on this cloud doesn't match, or on with this cloud, whatever, doesn't match the light source coming on. I don't even know where the light source is. I should establish that early on, right? I mean, it's behind, whatever. At this moment, I don't really care, because that's not what this piece is about.
Right.
For me.
Yeah.
I know it's collaboration. I don't know what it's about for you, but at least for me, that's being.
I just enjoy the time.
Right.
Really, because it's there's so much going on nowadays that people miss the dialogue in art. You know what I mean? Because the conversations are great. It's like talking about science with somebody who, it's just a pleasant conversation is mostly it. Anything more than that for me it's fine.
Right, you're about the moment, the process.
Yeah,
of it.
the moment and the process. That's what I find to be more appealing right now for me. It's like, if I sell art, that's great. If I don't, that's cool. It's like, I'm not worried about it.
Right.
I'm not worried about it anymore.
Yeah, I'm kind of in that zone. I don't really, at the moment, I'm not really focused on making money off of art.
Yeah.
That's what a day job is for.
Yeah. And I think if you can keep it fun, if you can keep enjoying it, I think that's where I'm at. I think if you're where I'm at with my art right now, I just want to enjoy it, because it's a luxury to be able to paint. Nowadays it's like you got your 9 to 5, you come home, you're fucking tired, you get drunk, you smoke some weed, and go to sleep.
Right.
It's like, oh my god, that's life.
Yeah, it's gonna be worse, right?
That's what we're doing nowadays, you guys? For real? It's like, jeez. That's not what I want to be doing. It's not what it is. But my new thing right now is like, I guess it was like going out to Tanner Butte, going on that hike, coming back, and doing stuff like this.
Okay.
Yeah,
totally.
that's great. That's a because now I'm reliving that moment. In my mind, it's like, this is cool because we walked through this place, and Tanner Butte's beautiful, and Oregon's beautiful. It was like, yeah, it was something special. And I think just being able to take the time to enjoy the memories of it, to enjoy, all the stupid stuff that we were talking about, and it was a lot of fun, man. It was, and then just, I guess that just goes back to just enjoying painting again. Because either way, if this was an abstract piece, would it be as... That's just not where I'm at right now.
Right.
It's like, I'm not trying to
how well I can play with space or depth. You know, so yeah, I'm not worried about that. I enjoy, you know, remembering the little rocks. You know, the stupid songs that we were singing that got stuck in our heads.
Nice.
You know, it was just everything.
Yeah.
But even, you know, even after something tragic, though, it's still the same thing. It's like I feel like people should be able to. It's healthy for people to have painting as an outlet. You know, just for the. It goes back to the communication, the dialogue. You know.
Yeah, I think a lot of it in the communication aspect, a lot. Sometimes it's about someone maybe calling out for.
Yeah.
Calling out.
Yeah.
For whatever, help, attention.
Yeah.
Someone who they can vibe with, or
Yeah. No.
community they could find, communion they could find.
What are you using for black? I guess I'll just go through it.
I can mix them up again, just combine the two.
I'll just start moving down the line.
I can mix them up.